Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council's Program Finance and Administration Committee. It's also known as the PFAC meeting. I'm Deborah Nelson. I'm the chair of PFAC and representing the New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the NYMTC website within the next 2 weeks. Today's meeting is available by webinar as well as in person at the NYMTC office located at 25 Beaver Street in Lower Manhattan. For the meeting, the audience who are in the webinar, your lines will be muted throughout the meeting. The chat pod is being monitored by the NYMTC staff. During the public participation section of the agenda, the registered speakers will be called on in the order of their registration. Registered speakers who are participating by webinar will be called on and their lines will be unmuted for their remarks. At this time, I will begin the roll call. When I say your agency, I ask that each representative state your name and the NYMTC principal that you are representing. First, for the voting members. New York State Department of Transportation. As I said, I'm Deborah Nelson and I am representing Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez. New York City Department of Transportation. Is there someone from the New York City Department of Transportation?
Ultra, present on behalf of Commissioner Idanis Rodriguez.
Thank you. New York City Department of City Planning.
Connor Clark, representing Commissioner Dan Garodnick.
Thank you. New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Valen Parsons, representing MTA, Jan Oliver.
Okay, thank you. Going to turn my volume up here. Nassau County. Okay. Suffolk County.
Christopher McVoy, representing Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine.
Thank you. Rockland County.
Pat Gurdon, representing Rockland County Executive Ed Day.
Thank you. Putnam County.
Joe Bellucci, representing Putnam County Executive Kevin Byrne.
Thank you. Westchester County.
Craig Lader, representing Westchester County Executive Ken Jenkins.
Thank you. Now we'll go to our advisory members. Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
Good morning. Jay Sheffield, representing Executive Director Rick Cotton.
Thank you. New Jersey Transit. Do we have anyone on from New Jersey Transit? What about our sister agency across the river, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority? Do we have anyone from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation?
Hi, good morning. Robert Bilowa. My first meeting, I assume I'm representing Commissioner Amanda Lefton.
Thank you. Federal Transit Administration. Federal Highway Administration.
Good morning, everyone. Gautam Mani, representing New York Division Administrator Rick Markey.
Thank you. And then the United States Environmental Protection Agency. All right. Well, thank you. By my count and under our operating procedures, we have a quorum for today's meeting. I will now ask the NYMTC Executive Director, Adam Levine, to please provide your report.
Good morning, and thank you, Deborah. The following are some of the noteworthy events that have taken place since our last meeting in February. As always, it has been a very busy winter into spring here at NYMTC, and here are several highlights of the extraordinary work we have underway. Several of the studies we've undertaken recently are at or nearing completion. Our Palisades Shared Use Path Feasibility Study issued a final draft, including recommendations for possible connections for biking, walking, and rolling between the George Washington Bridge and the Governor Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. The recommendations include north-south, east-west, and first-last mile connections. The project team shared the findings earlier this week at public meetings in Rockland County and New Jersey, as well as at a virtual session. Attendance was very good, and feedback was both substantive and appreciative. The draft final report for our safety needs and technologies assessment for the suburban counties has been completed and shared with the Safety Working Group. The report's recommendations will be shared at the upcoming New York State Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations Conference next month in Syracuse, as well as at our own brown bag session the following week on May 20th. Our multi-state regional waste movement study has developed initial findings which will be shared this coming Tuesday, April 22nd, in a virtual panel with the Regional Plan Association. The panel, being held on Earth Day as part of a celebration of Earth Week, will talk about the needs and opportunities of moving municipal solid waste and construction and demolition debris throughout our region and beyond. NYMTC has also had productive interactions with our federal partners since last we met. First among those was the recent approval by both the Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administrations of our 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program, which was adopted at our annual council meeting in February. This approval ensures the funding of the many studies and other planning efforts undertaken by NYMTC members and staff for the current fiscal year. Next, NYMTC staff was invited by the United States State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program to meet with a delegation from Israel. The meeting, held at the United States Mission to the United Nations earlier this month, was a great opportunity to share best practices and lessons learned about local and regional planning and coordination efforts with the Israeli officials. Lastly, the U.S. Government Accountability Office solicited our input for a survey on the effects of telework on vehicle use, transit, and housing. The survey, which asks about conditions both before and since the COVID pandemic, is collecting data from over 400 MPOs across the country, and we were happy to participate. On another international stage, this time in the world of sports, NYMTC staff met last month with the New York, New Jersey Organizing Committee for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We shared information on travel demand management options for travelers to MetLife Stadium, which will host several matches, including the final, as well as a series of Fan Fest events across the 39-day breadth of the event. We look forward to contributing in any way we can to the success of this mega event. Two of our major planning efforts will have public comment periods beginning in June. The Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, will include capital projects and studies that our member agencies intend to progress during federal fiscal years 2026 through 2030. Project selection by our member agencies has been completed, and a draft TIP will begin its public comment period on June 2nd. Our Regional Transportation Plan, Moving Forward 2055, includes both the near-term needs addressed in the TIP and longer-term vision projects that members hope to advance should funding become available. The draft of Moving Forward 2055, along with the draft status report of the congestion management process, will begin their public comment period on June 30th. Another of our major efforts is our annual Hubbound report, which measures traffic into and out of Manhattan. And with apologies to On the Town, in our report, it's 60th Street that's up and the battery's down. Just like in the movie, though, people still ride in a hole in the ground, and the report tracks ridership and commuting trends in other modes across the years. It's a heck of a report. It was released last month and was accompanied by a brown bag session featuring Munesh Patel and Maniza Pratila, and this illuminating and popular session is available on our website, www.nymtec.org, as well as our YouTube channel. Turning our attention to the New York Best Practice Model, this is our activity-based travel model covering the 28-county metropolitan area. It is used to project traffic and air quality conditions and is also utilized by member agencies for studies related to major projects. The project team has been very busy preparing model inputs needed for conformity and plan analysis, with test runs currently underway. Work on updating the NYBPM truck model component is ongoing. The model has been run successfully, and validation of the model results will begin soon. With that work underway, the conformity determination for calendar year 2025 has begun. Transportation conformity is required by the Clean Air Act to ensure that federal funding and approval are given to highway and transit projects that are consistent with or conform to air quality goals. Project information has been collected from all members, and coding into the NYBPM is nearly complete. Model runs and emissions inventories should be completed by the first week in May, and we are targeting a 30-day public comment period to begin in June. On the survey community of practice front, the project team is planning the next meeting, which will be held on Monday, May 19th. The community of practice gathers our members together to share best practices and harmonize our approaches to travel surveys. The upcoming meeting will feature a guest speaker and include a discussion on updates to the Community of Practice Guidelines document and the related Common Concepts Catalog. As I touched on earlier, NYMTC hosts a series of brown bag lunch webinars to share the amazing work being done by our members, our staff, and others in the transportation field. Our next webinar will be on April 30th, when we will hear from Westchester County and the New York City Department of Social Services on navigating free and reduced transit fares in the New York metro area. We'll see you there. And as I close my report, I want to thank the staff here at NYMTC, as well as our members, for all of your hard work. Your dedication and service to the people of New York City, Long Island, and the lower Hudson Valley is, as always, very much appreciated. And with that, I'll pass the virtual microphone back over to Deborah.
Well, thank you, Adam. Very impressive. There's a lot to be proud of there. Great work. So with that, we're going to go over to a presentation given to us by Dr. Allison C. de Cerreño, MTA's Deputy Chief Operating Officer. It's nice to see you, Allison. The presentation is titled New York's Congestion Relief Zone. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Allison.
Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, Adam, for the invitation to speak today. Is it working? Okay. And thank you to the PFAC members and those of you in the audience here and online for taking the time to come and listen to an update of New York's Congestion Relief Zone, the first implementation of its kind in North America. As Deborah said, I'm Allison de Cerreño, actually, though, Chief Operating Officer of MTA Bridges and Tunnels. And it's been my pleasure and my honor to be leading this effort from its inception through the implementation and now into operations. All right, so many of you, if not all of you, frankly, are familiar with MTA and its importance to the region, but I do like to always take a moment just to talk about the sheer size, because while we all know it's really important and we ride it every day, it's important to remind everyone just of the scale of our agency. We have a surface area of 5,000 square miles, over 15 million people. Our financials, as you can see here, with over 70,000 employees and billions of dollars in our operating and capital budgets, we're larger than many states and cities in this country. Our facilities, again, we know them. But we have the largest bridge and tunnel tolling authority in the United States, the largest transit system in the United States, the largest bus fleet in the United States, and two of the largest rail systems in the United States. Again, we forget sometimes, right, how that all fits together. I mean, we are pretty impactful. And now we have the first in the nation congestion relief zone, which in essence adds another large toll system into the United States. Won't take a lot of time on here, just a reminder, because we always do remind people, why are we doing this? First and foremost, because traffic congestion, until now, has challenged generations of people in New York City. These are old stats, right? We have a much better picture today of what's going on. But again, important to remind ourselves of where we came from, right? And as we all know, and the industry knows in transportation, you can't build your way out of congestion. And certainly in the New York City area, there's no place to build your way out of congestion. And then, of course, we do have the important piece of also helping to fund our transit system, which is old and needs repair and modernization. And again, a few more just to put in context, these are very large systems that need this funding. All right, so congestion pricing and how we arrived here. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, except to say that, as you can see here, there have been numerous attempts. For those of you who may not be as familiar, they've been trying to bring congestion pricing to the country since the 50s and 60s, but to the New York City area in particular since 2007. There have been a number of attempts to bring congestion pricing that have kind of started, stopped, started again, and you can see them here detailed. The current program had its beginnings in April 2019 with that MTA Reform and Traffic Mobility Act, which was enacted by the legislature and signed into law by the governor. The act defined the boundaries of the program, which you can see here. In the map over here, you can see we've got everything 60th Street inclusive and below. And then you can see, except for the area that is highlighted around, Those are what we call the excluded roadways, and if you stay traveling on those all the way through, you do not pay a toll, but if you come off them at any point, you do. You can see the 4 tunnels that are already tolled facilities that are coming in, 2 from the east and 2 from the west. And then in the blue, for those of you who can see that, you see the East River bridges that also come into the zone from the east side. That act also mandated certain features of the program that we needed to build the program within it. We had, as I mentioned, the boundaries, which I just went over. The act also required a variable toll. It required that passenger vehicles only be tolled once per day. It had the requirement for 2 exemptions, and we'll come back to that. Those exemptions were for vehicles transporting persons with disabilities and for emergency vehicles. It had a number of reporting requirements, and that's something you're already starting to see rolling out. And then, of course, we had the mandate of the Traffic Mobility Review Board, the TMRB as we called it, that needed to come together and determine ultimately what that toll structure was going to look like. And then it was mandated to do the funding, right? So all of the monies, and I find people still ask about this. In fact, over the weekend, I got a question about this. What is it actually funding? So again, after paying for the program, all of the funding goes to a lockbox for transit capital improvements. And specifically by law, 80% is for New York City Transit and 10% each for the 2 railroads. And then, of course, we had to establish an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with New York City Department of Transportation, because while we are a tolling entity, this is on city streets. So ultimately, as we came through the whole process from the environmental review, which many of you will remember, and I recognize people in the audience who were on a number of those events and at the outreach that we did for all of that, we came through that. We came through our TMRB, and again, many of you were there as well. And ultimately, we have the features of the toll structure that we have today. Time of day pricing, as we mentioned, it needed to be variable. We started with time of day. So there is a peak, there is an overnight, and the times are up there, and there is a 75% reduction in the peak toll during that overnight. Our types of vehicles, you may have noticed, it's a little more simplified than what we typically see. We have 5 different, what we call classes, and in essence, we have passenger or small commercial vehicles. We have our motorcycles. They're all charged once per day. Motorcycles charged a little bit less than the passenger vehicles. We have single unit trucks and buses, which are charged another rate, and then we have the multi-unit trucks and tour buses. We have crossing credits, so those who take those tolled tunnels straight into the congestion relief zone, as we refer to it, and have already paid a toll on one of those facilities ahead of time, get a crossing credit toward the CRZ for the tolls they already paid. And then we have our taxing for hire vehicles, where the vehicles are not tolled by the system itself. The vehicles actually go through, and the passengers have to pay a per-trip toll. Importantly, for everyone else coming in, for the passenger vehicles, you're charged that once per day upon entry. For the other vehicles, and motorcycles, by the way, for the trucks and buses that are able to be tolled more than once a day, it is always upon entry. But for the taxis and for hire vehicles, it's entry, exit, and trips within the congestion relief zone. Importantly, I want to just take a moment to run through, we have these discount and exemption plans, and some of you may actually be eligible for them. Some of you may know people who are eligible for them. We have a low-income discount plan that after you take your first 10 trips in each month, you get a 50% discount on the remaining trips. Our disability exemption, we have 2 different plans for that. We have the one for individuals, but we also have an organizational one. We have a number of organizations within the CRZ or outside the CRZ that transport persons with disabilities as part of what they do to help people back and forth inside there. And so we have that organizational plan for them. The emergency vehicle I already talked about. We have our bus exemption and then specialized government vehicle exemption. Importantly, this project set the tone and the stage for a number of precedents all along the way. This was yet another area where we did this. These are things that you do not see typically in tolling in this country, and so again, a precedent for others to follow. So the system design, we have the 2 technologies. We have the cameras for license plate detection. We also have our antenna and what we call readers that identify those in-vehicle transponders, otherwise known in this region as EasyPass. We use an algorithm that is used on those excluded roadways. So in essence, it sees your vehicle. As you're coming through, it monitors your vehicle. It also monitors the real-time traffic and the time it takes to get from one detection point to another. And as long as we continue to see your vehicle along that path, you do not get charged. If we stop seeing your vehicle, in essence, you must have gone in, at the time allotted, you must have gone into the zone. The reason we did this, frankly, was we're in an urban environment, and we're not just in an urban environment, we are in the urban environment in New York City. With the built-up environment, with all of the hustle and bustle that goes on, we did our best to minimize the footprint of this new system for the region. And as mentioned, we wanted to not just minimize the footprint, but also fit within the urban environment here. And so everything was designed with that in mind. We have an integrated housing that's designed to blend into the surroundings. I can't tell you how often I hear, we got a lot of questions as it was being built even, but where is it? I haven't seen it. And my answer always was, well, that's good because you weren't really supposed to see it. Not because we're hiding it for being concerned. We're trying to hide it so it's not distracting to people. So that integrated housing, instead of on a typical toll system, you'll see all the components separate along these giant gantries. Here it's all in one piece, and so it just minimizes even what's up on there. We also used existing infrastructure everywhere possible, which you can see here in the second picture. That's a walkway over one of the roadways, and we just popped our equipment underneath. We did the same thing down below. That's a sign gantry, and we put our equipment on there. And then we also used infrastructure similar to other locations. That's in the first picture on the top. So in essence, and you all know this by now, we refer to it as poles and mast arms. Mast arm going over the roadway, poles or single fire going just up along the side. And in each community, they match what's out there already. So, and they match not just in form, but in color. So we have different colors as well, and that was very purposeful to fit in for the visual surroundings. We also, for customers, grounded this in what's familiar, right, while trying to build for the future. So our payment mechanisms, we have Easy Pass, we have tolls by mail. We have a lot of that already in this region, so we wanted to use something similar. But we also have the ability for future third-party providers to come in with new technologies for either payments or for recognizing the vehicles themselves. And as long as they can tie into our system and meet our criteria and our requisites, they're able to be part of the system. Okay. Just wanted to take a moment. So one of the things that I think has been really different about this project, we recognized we were in a fishbowl, right? Global fishbowl, for that matter. Everybody was watching this, and it just didn't mean making sure the system works, that the system is right for our region, that the system does what it needs to do. It was also, how are we going about even building it, right? We had 110 different locations, 360 lanes of traffic that needed to be dealt with in a relatively short period of time. And so, as you can see here, we had our foundation excavation, we had the placement of the foundations, then we went and we boarded it up. In some cases, if it was taking too long, we even put more on top so it looked back like the sidewalk again. And then ultimately we came in and installed the poles and equipment. Typically, it took about 2 weeks. Some were even shorter than that. And even with all those locations, we generally didn't have complaints. In fact, the things that were most memorable were a couple of people who called in to say, hey, you guys had to move my city bike location a couple of blocks down. When is that coming back? Right, just to let them know it was coming back, it was just a temporary relocation. This is really important. Again, this is a new thing going into communities. We wanted to make sure people were comfortable with what was going on. And now, of course, we have to talk about what it's doing, right? So we've been saying this, very exciting. Traffic is down. We have fewer vehicles entering. Some drivers are shifting to overnight hours where there's capacity, but we have fewer vehicles entering. In January, we saw 8% down. February, against baselines, we saw 12. In March, nearly 13%. It's doing what we intended it to do. We also have faster trips. Shorter travel times for the bridges and tunnels directly entering the congestion release zone. Reduced travel times upstream as well. And buses are moving more quickly and trips are more reliable. And people have been telling us this. Buses, as I mentioned, faster. Local buses traveling 3% faster year over year within the central business district, or the, within the central business district, and express buses traveling 21% faster year over year, also within the CBD. And importantly, because, people are still out there, although we're hearing a lot of good stuff, but it's not just us, right? I mean, we have our own numbers, we're tracking everything, we have a great team that's working on this. But here's some stuff that others are saying. We have polls that are in essence looking at saying, hey, and this has been experienced in other parts of the world too when they've implemented congestion pricing. After it goes live, people see the value of it. And so 7 in 10 Manhattan voters and 6 in 10 New York City voters, right, and a majority in the metro area residents, they're seeing less congestion, right, after we implemented congestion pricing. We have researchers from multiple universities who published a report in the National Bureau of Economic Research, also seeing speeds increasing and travel times down. We have The Economist, right, early results encouraging. And then we have TomTom, right, that's also saying there's traffic is down in the CRZ. What I like in particular about all of this is that you see nonprofit polls, academic research, the media, and private sector assessments, and they're all saying the same thing that we're also saying, and they're using their own data, they're doing their own analysis on all of this. Everyone's seeing what we're seeing anecdotally and in data. Traffic is really down, congestion is down, travel times shorter, and more reliability. So some lessons. From the system perspective, keep it as simple as possible. And when I say as possible, obviously what we had in legislation and what we had in terms of what needed to be done wasn't simple in itself, but where we could keep it as simple, we always made sure to do that. Anticipating issues and being nimble, really important. It was a really smooth rollout. For those of you who've been in the industry for a while, frankly, I think a lot of people were surprised. We had the entire team set up, watching everything that was going on, anticipating things, and being really quick to respond when we needed to. Ensuring that smooth rollout, obviously we had communication. MTA, my colleagues in the different parts of MTA did a wonderful job, as did the city and the state, in getting the word out, making sure people knew, putting signs up, using social media. How are you going to use the system? Not just how it benefited. You may have noticed as the communications went through the period, it started with how it will benefit you, but as we got closer and closer, it was all about how you're going to use it. What's your experience going to be? What do you need to do? That was all really important. But the most important thing, really, from my perspective, was ultimately being really proactive after go live to address any issues quickly and transparently. We watched everything, and anything that happened, because that's expected. When a system goes live, you expect some little things to happen. No matter how small it was, we did very quick looks to see how many people might be affected. We never assumed anything was just a one-off, and we corrected within hours to very short period beyond that if necessary. And it was really appreciated. We had personal calls with people who were calling in who were confused. Frankly, I'm the COO of Bridges and Tunnels. I was making calls from time to time as something came up and we were trying to figure out if this was a real issue or not. One anecdote I'll share with no names, although by the third call we were on first name terms. I kept calling him back because the person kept saying, I definitely was not in the CRZ. I come in every day, I come over the Queensboro, and I go north, but I'm seeing a charge. So why am I seeing that charge? Well, it turned out there was confusion about the West Side Highway and West End Avenue. And so we did our diligence really down to that detail. Kind of like you may recall when we did the EA, down to the detail, down to stairways and escalators of where we might find an issue. Same thing as we went live in a different way, was down to the very detail. I kept having my folks taking closer looks as we got more information from this gentleman about where he thought he was until we found what we needed to be able to actually show him. And as soon as I said, this is where it was, he went, oh my goodness. Yes, I had entered actually to go in to pick up somebody to go back out through a tunnel. He thought he was on the excluded roadway and he wasn't. Those kinds of things made a huge positive, had a huge positive impact. It helped build trust, it helped build confidence. Not only did it roll out well, but we were watching it and making sure it stayed working the right way. So in closing, you may notice the picture on the left of the slide, some of you may have seen. When we first launched, one of my colleagues presented this at the board. She presented the before and after. Now we're really presenting just the after, because all of us remember that congestion because we're not that far out yet. One day, hopefully, we won't even remember it. It'll be far enough out. But on the left is right downtown, not too far from here, since congestion pricing. And then the one to the right now is on 3rd Avenue. And as you can see, our experience has been very much like other places, notably Stockholm, and I dare say London with that picture, where congestion pricing is doing what we intended it to do, and it's reducing the congestion. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Allison. Definitely working with a very expansive and impressive system, and your presentation really put that in perspective and is very informative. We do have some time for some questions, so I wanted to see if any of the members, the PFAC members, have a question for Allison regarding her presentation. And if none of the members have any questions, I'm going to ask Adam. We have a chance to get it from the audience. Adam, do we have any questions from the meeting site, from some of the folks who are there with you?
I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, wait, we do have a hand up. Yes.
Thank you. On the potential trouble spots, the crosswalks, expressway, for example, and the other environmental areas.
So some of the data, some of the air quality data is actually already live. There's a daily feed through New York City site that has the monitors that were out there and that we added as part of that. So that's coming regularly already. The other data, we're working out exactly when it will be released. We have commitments in the environmental assessment that we intend to live up to. So you will start to see that. You're already seeing traffic data trickling out. You're seeing some transit data. I shouldn't even say trickling. It's out. And you'll be seeing some of the other data coming soon as well. Mm-hmm.
Great.
That's it here in the room.
Right.
That's
Well,
it for the room? Okay, well, we do have the, Stephanie, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yes, we do. There was a question from a person living in Manhattan. Like most Manhattanites, I do not own a car. I am disabled and have a disability hashtag. When I rent a car for necessary travel, I am charged a full toll. What can you do to help folks like me who live below 61st Street?
So there are two things that can be done there. One, I would encourage the person to please do contact. The information's up on our website. You are eligible for a disability exemption, and it can be done with somebody else who drives you. The other thing is, in New York City, we do have AAR, and for trips that are taken in those vehicles, again, those are the organizational vehicles, you would not be charged for those either.
Thank you. The next question is, I share a vehicle with my partner. Both she and I have EasyPass accounts and devices. If I use my EasyPass instead of her, she is the one being billed instead. I thought the system is geared to change a valid EasyPass displayed. Why does this happen? Sorry, charge a valid EasyPass displayed. So it charges the EasyPass displayed rather than the account owner.
Yeah, so what's happening there is the way the system works, it's actually looking at the license plate, and it connects it with the EasyPass, but it looks into the account to see what EasyPass is connected. So if you're using your EasyPass but somebody else's vehicle with that plate, it is going to actually charge the plate on the account or that account of the vehicle owner.
Thank you. Next question is from Gail Brewer, our City Council. Input from restaurants. It seems that many in the zone are hurting. Do we have any data on the restaurants?
We don't have that data right now, but it is something that we're taking a look at broadly in terms of the overall effects that we've been seeing.
Thank you. Just a request, if we have any more verbal questions, to just repeat them before answering so that those of us attending virtually can hear them. Another question. I am very supportive of the principle and results of congestion pricing, reducing CBD congestion, and raising funds for transit capital projects. Frankly, I think that one has to be insane to drive down to the CBD during rush hour. I always take mass transit. My question, though, relates to off hours. While during rush hour traffic backed up significantly, I've long noticed there is little after 3 or 4 p.m. Why not start off hours then?
So there was a lot of discussion during the environmental review process as well as during the TMRB process. And this was actually seen as the way the toll structure was developed with a peak period and then the overnight with that steep discount was seen really as the best way to address both issues related to the project and have the broadest span to help the different people at different times of day to travel in with the congestion pricing.
Thank you. And a follow-up question from the person who was driving another vehicle and then the opposite Easy Pass got charged. The response to your response was, my partner has a disability hang tag as showing disabled, which has been disallowed. Is that an Easy Pass issue, or how would they resolve that?
So again, on our site, we have the information. I would encourage you to apply for the disability exemption. You absolutely, the hang tag is not a sufficient credential, and that's in part, frankly, because you can actually buy hang tags out of a manual. So the hang tag doesn't work. However, there are other documents that suffice for providing for that credential, or you can come down and get an assessment. We have assessment centers in every borough. And if you do that, if it is your friend who is driving you and you are the person with the disability, you can identify their vehicle as the vehicle that will get that exemption.
And then a follow-up question from our first respondent. Will you send a link to the recording of this session? We will be sending a recording of this. This should be on our YouTube channel as well. Then a follow-up question. Yep, we'll make sure everyone has the link. Follow-up question about the off hours. Why not start off hours or overnight at a time that relates to non-congestion?
Again, so this was decided as part of this lengthy process. You know, interestingly, when you say non-congestion, the peak period does run through the day in part, largely, because when you look at a lot of the typical roadways, people think, and they've seen historically, although it's been changing for some years, but not to the extent that we see it in the CRZ. On more typical roadways, you see a peak in the morning, you see a peak in the late afternoon, right, during rush hours, and in the middle it dips, and in the evening it dips. The CRZ doesn't work that way. All the data, which by the way was from NYMTC, so thank you, the data on how the hub in essence works with the CRZ is traffic begins building really early in the morning around 5 a.m., and it finally starts to level off and curtail around 9 p.m. and doesn't really drop off till almost 11 p.m. As part of the discussions that went on and as the public hearings and public outreach was held and we heard from people, instead of doing 11 p.m., which was one of the early thoughts on this, it was moved to 9 p.m. to help with some of the folks who are actually coming back or coming into the city at different times working those late shifts so that they could benefit from that overnight period with the 75% discount.
Thank you. There's a note in the chat that the recording and meeting notes will be available 2 weeks after today. It'll be at NYMTC.org, so, and you'll see that there. Then there is another question. Is there a limit to the amount of vehicles that a disabled person can apply to their disability certification? What if they have a network of friends and family with different cars that help them get around, that help the disabled person get around?
Yes, at this time, it is linked to only one vehicle.
Thank you very much. That is all the chat questions. Hang on, there's one more that just came in. I think there was a response to, love to see the data, I believe, of the off hours. I've never seen any traffic, at least on the West Side Highway, after 5 p.m. Is there a way to see that data?
Yeah, the data is already posted on our website, and we'll make sure that the links get put into the chat for that as well.
Thank you. And we do have a hand up from one of our PFAC members, Craig Lader. Craig, did you have a question?
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I'm particularly curious whether you have any data showing whether there have been any impacts on for-hire vehicles. As we all know, for-hire vehicles, TNC's made make up a very large and increasing and have been increasing over the last decade in terms of the extent to which they are creating congestion in the congestion relief zone. And the surcharges that are in place are quite nominal. So I'm wondering if you have any data showing whether the percentage and patterns in which TNCs are operating within the congestion relief zone are available at this point.
So some of the data isn't quite available yet, but that is one of the things that is going to be available as we go forward. And so you should be, again, seeing it fairly soon as we start rolling out additional sources of information and pieces of data. And I do want to also note, we are doing, as we're putting the data out, it's being put out in open data format to the greatest extent possible, so people really can go in, see all the numbers, and make of it what they would like to make of it. Obviously, there's some guidance and explanation as well, but we wanted to make sure people have as much access to this data as possible.
Well, thank you. So Allison, thank you again. Obviously, there's a lot of interest. This has been a very informative presentation. We really appreciate all the work that you've done, and we really appreciate that you came here and presented it in this forum.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to everyone for your questions and participation. We are now going to move into our public participation segment of this meeting. We will hear from registered speakers with prepared remarks. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to give their remarks, and we will hear from these participants in the order that they have registered. We ask that all speakers limit their comments to relevant transportation and planning related items. Andrea, do we have any registered speakers for today's meeting?
No, we do not.
We do not. Okay. Well, we will move on then. So now we'll move on to begin with our action items on the agenda. All material related to these action items have been posted on the NYMTC website at www.nymtc.org. The first action is to accept the February 13th, 2025 synopsis. I ask all voting members to announce your name and agency that you represent when you make or second a motion. May I have a motion to accept the February 13, 2025 meeting synopsis?
You have a motion. Paul Ochoa, New York City DOT, representing Commissioner Idanis Rodriguez.
Great, thank you so much. May I have a second?
Second, Pat Gurdon, Rockland County.
Great, thank you, Pat. Does anyone object to this motion? All right, hearing no objections, the meeting synopsis is accepted. Thank you all. The next action item is to adopt resolution number 597, amendments to the state fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program. I will ask to Alan to introduce this resolution.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So this resolution, to summarize what's in the attachments, includes 3 items. The first item is an action to reprogram some funding from NYMTC staff's core program to Suffolk County's core program so that they can accomplish their core program work over the state fiscal year 2025 through 2026. The second set of actions requested by New York City DOT includes the inclusion of 2 continuing studies that were initially programmed in the prior program year and adding it into the current program year. In addition, New York City DOT is requesting to add 1 new planning study to the work program. And the third action is to include a set of NYSERDA planning-related grants to the UPWP's other studies catalog for informational and collaborative purposes. NYMTC staff requests that you adopt this resolution.
Thank you, Seitu. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 597, amendments to the state fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program?
Connor Clark, representing Commissioner Dan Garodnick of New York City Department of City Planning.
Thank you, Connor. May I have a second?
I can second that. Paulo Chua, representing Commissioner Idanis Rodriguez, New York City DOT.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
You cannot. You have to get another TCC to do that.
Okay. So we need, which TCC did the motion?
New York City Planning.
Okay, so we need someone from either Long Island or Mid-Hudson.
Pat Gurdon, Rockland County, second.
Thank you, Pat. All right. So now we're going to vote by roll call. We're going to go around the horn, starting with Lower Hudson Valley. Putnam County? Putnam County?
Yes.
Aye. Okay. Rockland?
Sorry.
Aye, Rockland.
Westchester?
Aye.
Okay. Long Island, we're going to go with Nassau County. I don't believe we have anybody, do we? Suffolk County?
Aye.
Thank you. New York City, we're going to go with New York City Department of Transportation.
Aye.
And New York City Department of City Planning.
Aye.
Great. And then finally, Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Aye.
And New York State DOT votes aye. Thank you all. There's one more action on the action item to adopt that is not listed on today's agenda. That action item is to recognize service by Jerry Bokatz, the Assistant Director of the Planning Group within NYMTC. I'll ask Adam to introduce this resolution.
Thank you, Deborah. So Resolution 598 of the Program Finance and Administration Committee, recognition of service by Jerry Bogaz as Assistant Director to the Planning Group within the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council. Whereas Jerry Bogaz began his career with the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council in 1997, and whereas in his role as NYMTC's Assistant Director to the Planning and Program Management Group, Jerry has provided invaluable support to the Council, to the Program Finance and Administration Committee, and to the NYMTC staff. And whereas during his tenure, Jerry's knowledge and comprehension of New York State's Metropolitan Planning Organization role has provided respected and next-level guidance, as well as valuable support to the Council, to PFAC, and to NYMTC staff that has contributed towards the planning process for the NYMTC region. And whereas after 28 years of service with NYMTC, Jerry will retire effective May 29th, 2025. Now be it resolved that the Program Finance and Administration Committee members express their appreciation to Jerry Bogaz for his extraordinary dedicated service in shaping the NYMTC region. And be it further resolved that the members of PFAC and the staff of NYMTC wish Jerry well in his retirement. This resolution shall take effect this 17th day of April 2025.
Thank you, Adam. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 598, recognition of service by Jerry Bogaz as the Assistant Director to the Planning Group within the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council.
Hi, Deb. Pat Gurdon, having known Jerry for more than 28 years with his time he started in Westchester County, it's with great pleasure and a little sadness that I will make this motion recognition of service for Jerry.
Thank you, Pat. May I have a second?
Seconded by Christopher McVoy, Suffolk County.
Thank you, Chris. Is there any discussion? Hearing no, do I have any objections? If I have no objections, the resolution will be adopted. Any objections? Other than him not leaving? Before I put the spotlight on Jerry, actually, I'm going to take executive privilege to first say something, and then I'm going to ask others if they want to say any words. I personally want to thank Jerry for the years that we worked together. We worked together very closely for 6 years, and it was really a privilege and pleasure to work with Jerry. He helped me to learn a lot along the way. I especially appreciate when we work together as the two-headed monster, as you like to call us. And it really, I want to thank you both professionally and personally for your time and your partnership in this. Would anyone else like to say a few words?
Deb, Pat Gurdon. I'd just like to say that Jerry has the ability to make something very confusing and put it in layman's terms that we all needed. So I really appreciate that from Jerry.
Absolutely.
We've got a member of the staff approaching the mic.
Hi, good afternoon. I've been with NYMTC for the last 2 decades. And he was my director when I joined NYMTC. He's the last iconic figure leaving NYMTC. When I joined, Tom Schuch was the executive director. And then Alan Bornstein, he's the admin director. Kwan Chow was the technical group director. All these 3 people left NYMTC after a couple of years later. Till now, Jerry holds this position for the last 2.5 decades when I'm here. Now he will be leaving. I know NYMTC will survive, but a very experienced and very professional guy will be leaving from NYMTC. That is the hardest part. We have to settle those. And sad part is that he is a gentleman. We were together in the World Trade Center collapse. And then a couple of days later, the funny part was that September 11, one of my colleagues, he normally comes down at 9 o'clock. That day he came at 7 o'clock. And next to my office was the coffee club. And when I saw him, I said, why you are here? Oh, I have to prepare a lot of documents for the meeting which will take place at 10 o'clock. He came 7 o'clock. And the hardest part was that was a fatal day for 3 of our people who left on that day. Was one of them him. And that was the sad part we have went through. And later on, Jerry was so kind of it, he was telling me one day, Abdul, am I the one who is blamed for his death? I told him, no, you are not to be blamed for this. This is the act of God. And that's why he came 7 o'clock on that day, which he is not supposed to come down that day. His timing was 9 o'clock. And you cannot be blamed for that. So you see how things are happening. Each and every moment Jerry was here in NYMTC, he used to take care of his staff. And each and every staff is really happy to work with him. And now we will be leaving a guy who is an iconic figure in NYMTC. Thank you.
Juice?
I just want to say, Jerry, we've had our ups and downs, our in and outs, but it's always been a pleasure and it's always been fun. And I will totally miss you. Jeez, surprise.
I'll also take a little executive privilege. I guess I'm partly responsible for this resolution. So Jerry, if you've got anybody you want to be upset with, you can start with me. But we're also, aside from being a Mets fan, you're pretty close to as perfect a coworker as I can imagine. It's been great working with you and learning from you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do with the next chapter.
Deb, do I get to say anything?
I was just going to say, Jerry, I am going to hand the mic over to you, and we would love to hear from you.
Well, first of all, this is a surprise, and if I had known this was going to happen, I would have worn a suit, Adam, but I didn't. It's really it's been a wild road, to say the least. The work at NYMTC is incredible in the sense of the amount of time you spend working with the members, working with communities all across the region. For a planner, it's really invaluable. And I think working with the members particularly, and people I've worked with for long periods of time, short periods of time, that's really the gravy of of the job. And so I thank the members from the bottom of my heart for everything that we experienced together and worked together on. I'm glad I was able to make it a little more straightforward, if it's such a thing as even possible. And of course, the staff. I mean, what can you say about the staff of NYMTC? Everything that the organization's been through is something I'll take with me forever. And I really, really appreciate everyone's professional work here at NYMTC staff. It's a very difficult job to do what we do, and also your friendship. And so thanks to everyone, and I will miss this work. I really will, and everyone involved in it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jerry. And there are a number of comments in the chat box that you should be sure to read. And we truly wish you well in well-deserved next phase. We hope you can relax. Not sure you will, but we sure hope that you can enjoy your time. People really have enjoyed having you as a teacher and a mentor and a colleague. So thank you so much. All right. So, and again, there are many comments in the chat. Please be sure you look at those. The next PFAC meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 12th, 2025, and the details of that meeting will be made available 2 weeks prior to the meeting date. So to conclude today's meeting, I ask for motion to adjourn the meeting.
Christopher McVoy, Suffolk County, motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Christopher. May I have a second?
Second, Craig Later, Westchester County.
Thank you, Craig. And does anyone object to this motion to adjourn? All right, well, hearing none, the meeting is adjourned, and thank you, everyone, and congratulations, Jerry. Good luck. Take care, everyone.
Congratulations, Jeremy.